Sticking with the economy for a moment, concerns about a slowdown are growing. The Atlanta Federal Reserve is already predicting a contraction in the first quarter. And yet, every time I hear that tired excuse about inheriting a mess, I can't help but laugh because it's just absurd. The idea that Trump walked into economic chaos? Please. What he actually inherited from President Biden was the strongest economy in the world, and in just 6 weeks, he's managed to send it into a downward spiral. Whether it's sheer incompetence or something more deliberate, it's getting harder to ignore the pattern. Now, take a look at what Trump is saying about the markets. He brushes off the volatility, claiming stocks will go up, go down. But when asked if his tariff policies bear any responsibility for the recent turmoil, his response? Blame Biden. According to him, Biden handed over a disastrous economy and runaway inflation. Except that's not reality. The real story? Investors and business leaders are scrambling to adjust to Trump's chaotic decision-making. The market isn't reacting to some imaginary crisis left behind by Biden. It's reacting to what Trump is doing right now. Trump might be orchestrating an economic collapse while blaming President Biden for everything. Meanwhile, Biden delivered far beyond expectations, taming inflation, avoiding a recession, and driving consistent job growth month after month. But now Trump and his allies could be deliberately crashing the economy, setting the stage to scoop up assets at rock-bottom prices, while everyone else struggles to stay afloat. This is a well-worn tactic. When a recession hits, the economy tanks, businesses fail, and only the wealthiest have the resources to buy everything at a fraction of its true value. Those at the top, with money to spare, seize the moment, grabbing up properties, assets, and companies while everyday people lose everything. Once the economy rebounds, they don't just recover. They emerge with even greater control. A handful of elites may have slightly less cash in the short term, but with everything around them selling for pennies on the dollar, they keep buying. By the time the market stabilizes, they've doubled their holdings, consolidating even more power. Recessions devastate ordinary people, but for those with enough capital and the right connections, they present an opportunity to dominate the economy on an even larger scale. Most people aren't watching their 401ks shrink because they don't even have one. For many, the real concern isn't retirement savings, it's whether Social Security and Medicaid will still be there, whether their kids can get a school lunch, or if they can even afford to put food on the table. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has gutted the USDA, the very agency responsible for keeping the nation's food supply safe. Contaminations like E. coli and bird flu become even bigger risks when oversight is stripped away. Yet, instead of addressing these immediate threats head-on, Democratic leadership often responds with lengthy statements that fail to cut through the noise. The New Republic recently published a strong piece on this issue, highlighting the disconnect between political messaging and the urgent realities people face every day. Here's a key excerpt from that article. Nobody cares when Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer holds another dull press conference filled with vague warnings about Trump, while everything else about their approach signals that business will continue as usual. That kind of messaging doesn't cut through the chaos people are actually living through. The focus shouldn't even be on swing voters anymore. The real opportunity lies in reaching the very people who have been sold a lie. Trump supporters, who are now watching their federal jobs disappear, their Social Security vanish, their Medicaid and SNAP benefits get gutted. Democrats need to drop the polished speeches and just speak plainly. Republicans are actively dismantling public education, stripping away Social Security, and gutting essential programs that keep families afloat. Their policies will leave kids without food, expose them to preventable diseases, and make basic survival even harder. This isn't a theory, it's happening right now. The approach should be direct and relentless, just like Senator Bernie Sanders has done for years. Show up, lay out the facts, and prosecute the case against those tearing the country apart. He's pulling in massive crowds, and for good reason. While some Democrats keep chasing the illusion that moving further right is the only way forward, Bernie Sanders is out here packing stadiums. The message couldn't be clearer. People across the political spectrum, whether conservative, progressive, moderate, independent, or somewhere in between, don't want a handful of billionaires running the government. They see what's happening in Washington every day, and they're looking for real leadership that actually addresses the problems they're facing. The energy behind this movement isn't coming from corporate donors or establishment politics. It's coming from people who know that the decisions being made right now will shape not just their own futures, but their children's and the future of the planet itself. It's not complicated. Speak to people's real struggles, stand for something, and the support will follow. Bernie Sanders, long dismissed by both establishment Democrats and the far right as a socialist, is packing stadiums, even in deep red districts. His message is simple and direct. fact. People are about to lose their health care, billionaires are looting the system, and working Americans are being lied to by media giants like Fox News. And it's resonating. Meanwhile, Republicans have mastered the art of distraction. While they push manufactured outrage over so-called gender operations in schools and vilify trans people, they're robbing their own supporters blind. They flood the conversation with fear and division while quietly stripping away economic security, healthcare, and basic protections. Consider this. Right now, there are more cases of measles in the U.S. than NCAA trans athletes. But listening to lawmakers, you'd never know it. Instead of addressing real issues, they keep the focus on a non-existent crisis while ignoring actual public health threats. The narrative needs to change. Democrats must stop letting MAGA Republicans control the conversation with lies and manufactured panic. And on that note, Jack Schlossberg recently released a powerful video calling this out. For those unfamiliar, he's the grandson of President John F. Kennedy and the son of Caroline Kennedy. His perspective is worth hearing. The Democratic Party is making a serious mistake by backing away from social issues. I keep hearing this talk about how we focus too much on social matters and not enough on what the American people actually care about. They're saying we need to shift focus from class bathrooms to classrooms, but that's not the issue at all. In reality, we haven't even started making enough of the right media yet. It's not about choosing between issues. It's about tackling everything head on. You can't just abandon one issue for another and expect it to work. The right is dominating the conversation because they keep pushing the same tired narratives about transgender issues, and we're letting them define the debate. The truth is, we were right to stand for the issues we care about. What we need now is to make more content, make it better, make it more engaging, and connect those social issues to the bigger concerns people care about, like the economy and immigration. We know what needs to be done. It's time to move forward with some real confidence. It's time to act with confidence. We don't need to be stuck giving speeches in front of Capitol Hill cameras that only a handful of political junkies and reporters are watching. The real focus should be on speaking directly to the people. And you know what? Republicans are playing dirty. They're smug, they're lying, and they're bullying their way through politics. The answer to bullies is simple. Stand up to them. Take a look at what Representative Bill Keating of Massachusetts did in this clip. He didn't back down when the chairman tried to dismiss a duly elected representative. Keating called out the disrespect and refused to let the meeting continue until the proper protocol was followed. His message was clear. Don't let anyone walk all over you. Stand firm and demand the respect that's deserved. When Representative Bill Keating stood his ground, that moment went viral for a reason. It's the kind of energy the pro-democracy side needs. I'm tired of the same old dull statements from Chuck Schumer and Leader Jeffries. We need to see people fighting back, standing up for those being bullied by Republicans. Honestly, that's pretty much all of us right now. As I mentioned the other day on Blue Sky, Jesus didn't try to win over the moderates of his time. Whether you believe in him or not, we're still talking about him over 2,000 years later because he stood up for what was right, regardless of who agreed with him. The same goes for today. Now let's talk about following the rules. Someone tried to argue with me on X about how we need to stick to the rules. Well, those rules went out the window when Mitch McConnell blocked President Obama's Supreme Court nomination. And look at where we are now. Fascists sit on the highest court, enabling Donald Trump to get away with everything. As for following the rules, please, don't even. We have a sitting president and a corrupt administration looting our government, helping brutal dictators, and profiting off of campaign donations. And some want us to play nice and follow the rules? Miss me with that. We didn't even stand up for President Joe Biden, who has been one of the most effective presidents in modern history. Instead, we let a corrupt, evil man occupy the White House while our leadership cowers in fear. This is the moment to fight. We can't wait for the midterms to take action. That's exactly how tyranny takes hold, by people sitting back and waiting for the right time. Look at history. Waiting too long is how we ended up with the Nazis gaining power and how Putin has been able to grow his grip. I've seen what's at stake. As a cancer survivor, I know the vital role Medicaid and Medicare play in people's lives. I've met so many people at the Cancer Center who rely on these programs. If Republicans take that away, people will die. We cannot let that happen. Now is the time to fight. If we don't act now, it will be too late. Leaders like Jeffries and Schumer cannot afford to wait. The battle is happening right now. Let's step up and do something about it.